It's Monday, July 26th, and this is now on H&N.
We're at 92 people in the hospital today.
Another day of triple-digit cases. The ongoing surge of infections is causing growing concern among state health officials.
There are still far too many people who aren't vaccinated.
During her stop in Hawaii, First Lady Jill Biden promotes the COVID vaccine at a visit to Oahu High School.
We've got these stories, plus redefining what an astronaut is. That's coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching this shortened version of This Is Now. Let's get right to today's latest case count.
The state health department is reporting 163 new COVID cases today and no new deaths. The breakdown by island shows 34 cases on the Big Island, 1 probable case on Kauai, 16 cases on Maui, 105 cases on Oahu, including 2 probable infections, and 7 people were diagnosed out of state. With more on the recent spike in cases, here's an update from Lieutenant Governor Josh Green.
This is what happens after you have a surge of the cases. Usually it's about 2 weeks delayed. And at that point, you start seeing an increase in cases in the hospital. Our hospitals are ready and fully able to care for all of our people. We've got 68 individuals on Oahu in the hospital with COVID, 15 on Maui, and 9 on the Big Island. So of these individuals, they're all quite sick, but about 20 are in the ICU. And again, we have complete capacity in our ICU statewide. We have the wherewithal to take care of everybody. But when you see case counts go up, we went from 600 cases active about 3 weeks ago to 2,000 active cases. When you see that kind of surge in the cases, the hospitalizations follow.
The Department of Health just released new guidelines on the return of school. I'm going to play out some of that media briefing right now.
So summaries of the recent changes include some additions. One is promoting the COVID-19 vaccination as a core essential strategy for all eligible children and adults. Screening testing is also an additional mitigation strategy that is addressed in more detail in this iteration of the guidance, with greater details about when to perform diagnostic and screening testing and how this can be accomplished in schools. Additional updates include updated mask guidance for indoor and outdoor settings, with universal masking being recommended for all indoor school settings and outdoors during activities where crowding or prolonged close contact is anticipated. For sports and extracurricular activities, we have updated this section on with a risk-based approach, emphasizing that outdoor activities are safest, while the greatest risk comes from interactions in indoor closed settings. For example, weight rooms or locker rooms where there may be limited ventilation and people may be removing their masks. Finally, we also update the definition for a close contact in classroom K-12 settings. In indoor K-12 classroom settings, there is now evidence that students in these settings who are seated at least 3 feet apart are not at increased risk of transmitting COVID-19 to fellow students.
Well, our state's passenger arrival numbers have risen to a pre-pandemic level. Sometimes they're even surpassing that. Our Sammy Selena has much more on how the state is handling this demand.
The Hawaii Tourism Authority acknowledged that we don't have the resources to keep up the way we used to before the pandemic.
We often underestimate how injured the system of tourism got during that time. And so what you end up with is a system that once could take 220 volts is now only capable of taking 110 volts. But the market is still at 220.
We're seeing these numbers even without a lot of foreign visitors. About 30,000 came in daily this past weekend, according to HTA. DeFries said this is partly due to the fact that airlines are redirecting what would have been international flights to Hawaii since people aren't really traveling outside of the United States. He expects this pent-up demand to cool off this fall, but for now, HTA just has to work with hotels, restaurants, DOT and DOH and other agencies to try to manage these folks. Right now, hotels are operating at about 80% capacity, according to the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association.
And we even haven't started to open up conventions, weddings, banquets. So there's still more to do in terms of attracting the quality visitor here. And that's what I think we're looking to do. And certainly we want the residents to be a part of that.
And restaurants and tourism hotspots are happy they're busy, but they're stretched thin.
So we wanted to expand the business. However, it's very challenging to hire employees in Waikiki now.
HTA says a common question it gets is about capping the amount of visitors that are allowed to come to Hawaii. And they said it's really not in the state's jurisdiction to be able to do that. They said that for the most part, people are allowed to travel freely within the United States. Sammy Solina for This Is Now.
First Lady Jill Biden visited Waipahu High School yesterday. She toured a Hawaii Pacific Health mobile vaccination clinic that was set up there. The First Lady encouraged everyone to get vaccinated as COVID cases surge in the state and around the nation.
There are still far too many people who aren't vaccinated. And that's why I wanted to come and spend time with you today. Because Hawaii, your lives and your health matter to the president and to me.
I'm just so happy to have seen her and for her to have seen all the hard work that all the people have been putting into this clinic.
After the vaccination clinic, Biden met with military families at a barbecue at Pearl Harbor, thanking them for their service and sacrifices. As COVID infection rates surge in every state, some communities are starting to reimpose restrictions. Today, New York City and the state of California announced mandatory vaccines or weekly testing for most of their employees, and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs announced even stricter rules. David Bignod has more.
As the Delta variant of the coronavirus continues to spread, the city and county of St. Louis has become the latest community to reinstate an indoor mask mandate.
Wear a mask to protect those around you and to stop the spread.
New projections show that COVID-19 cases will likely continue to rise nationwide over the next few months. Daily deaths could more than triple from their current levels, rising to about 850 a day.
Unvaccinated individuals account for virtually all of the hospitalizations and deaths in the United States.
New York City has announced that nearly all municipal workers will be required to get vaccinated by September, or else they must be tested weekly.
This is about what we need to do to bring back New York City. This is about keeping people safe.
In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the largest hospital in the state has stopped scheduling non-emergency surgeries because of the surge in cases.
Well, I want to tell everybody, please take the shot.
We spoke with COVID patients in Jackson, Mississippi, including 38-year-old Edward Clifton, who is unvaccinated, and the wife of 52-year-old William Ball. He got sick with COVID 9 days after he had a heart attack, and he is also not vaccinated.
He will get the vaccine when he gets out of the hospital.
When he said, I want that vaccine, tell me what you're thinking.
He's got to get out of the hospital first.
"87% of the people hospitalized for COVID here in the state of Mississippi are not vaccinated. And when you look at the data nationally, that number jumps to 97% of the people in the hospitals have not been fully vaccinated. David Begno, CBS News, Jackson, Mississippi.
Now for a check on your weather, let's send it over to Guy Hagi.
Most of the rain for the next 24 hours will favor the east end of the state. Trading's running breezy already, especially from Maui to Kauai. Lighter winds, of course, due in for the Kona side of the Big Island. So look for increasing showers, mainly for Maui and the Big Island, starting tonight, starting this afternoon through tomorrow morning. And again, there could be some spots of heavy rain for Maui and the Big Island, especially the windward sides. Drier for Oahu and for Kauai. Not a lot of surf to speak of, although that wind swell will continue to bring us some rough and choppy conditions over on the east side. No significant swells are due in anytime soon. So we're still expecting lots of sunshine for Kauai and Oahu through tomorrow. More showers for Kauai and Oahu due on Wednesday. So for the short term, look for maybe some heavy downpours for Maui and the Big Island Monday and Tuesday. And then as we head into the weekend, things should be pretty nice. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
The internet has so much to say today. Let's see what Ashley found out.
Yeah, so Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson may have gone to space, but they're not officially recognized as astronauts, at least by the U.S. government standards. The Federal Aviation Administration recently changed its criteria to receive commercial astronaut wings. Before, travelers only had to fly to an altitude of at least 50 miles. Now they have to do that and demonstrate activities during flight that were essential to public safety or contributed to human space flight safety. Now, the FAA says the change aligns more directly with the agency's goals. Since the 1960s, it's been a rite of passage for astronauts to get wings after flying to space. There's still a chance Branson's, Bezos, and some of their crew could also be issued an honorary award by the FAA.
All right, I'm glad they made that clarification. I was sort of wondering about that.
Yeah.
So here's something else many of you might be wondering. Are you noticing that some things at the grocery store are getting smaller? Yep, that's what's happening. We're getting reports of ice cream and even cereal containers being in smaller packages. And now this is all to offset cost, is what we're being told. It's called shrinkflation, and it's been around for decades, but it's becoming more and more typical as companies look to cut those corners, like when we're seeing the inflation that we're seeing right now is that type of time. Consumers always notice those price hikes, but they're way less likely to notice smaller boxes of cereal or maybe even a few less sheets of toilet paper.
That's so interesting. Is that why sometimes your bag of chips feel like a bag of air?
Yeah, you're right. And also here there's settling problems, because they come over on these cargo ships,
Right.
so they become crumbs and we get a little less chips in our bags sometimes here in Hawaii. Yep.
Price of paradise.
Yup.
A Grammy award-winning artist is footing the bill for a fine given to the Norwegian women's handball team after the athletes protested what they called a sexist dress code. The team was fined a little under $1,800 for wearing shorts during one of their matches, which goes against the rules. According to the dress code, it states female athletes must wear bikini bottoms with a close fit and cut. Now, in a social media post, Pink wrote, quote, "The European Handball Federation should be fined for sexism. I'll be happy to pay fines for you." The team also received support from the Norway Handball Federation, also agreeing to pay the fines. The European Handball president has since announced the organization will reevaluate the dress code.
All right, speaking of the Olympics, that is why we are coming to you a little differently today here at This Is Now. That's how it's going to be going for the next couple weeks until the Olympics are over on KHNL. So feel free to watch them anytime right there, KHNL, your Olympic station. We're also doing this cool thing called an Olympic shortcast. You can catch that on all your H&N digital platforms. We'll be back here tomorrow, guys. Bye.